What is up, everybody? How's it going? Okay, so I have the same 9 people that are back in the house. Mac Dizzle, okay. We in here. Fizz Gig 72. Tattooed Artist, you back. Jazzy Jess, what's up? Foxy's here. Megan, you guys are back. Jazzy, you like that emoji? That's such an ugly face. I don't know. I thought that one was so dumb. But it's funny. All right. So you guys can hear me. Type a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me. I want to make sure we good. Because I think we figured it out. All right. We're good. We're up. The mic. Yep. We're good. All right. Whoa. See, this is why I shouldn't stream late at night, because I can't think. Can't really think. All right, you guys. So Jonathan Gerlock, 34-year-old, arrested in Pennsylvania for having a bunch of dead bodies in his basement. What is going on in Pennsylvania? This guy's quite disturbing, right? Okay, see, I see some ones in the chat. Cool. There you go. I really wasn't going to stream tonight, but we got bored. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Let's go ahead and watch this video from Long Crime. They did this a couple days ago, I think like 2 or 3 nights ago. We're going to turn this down and we're just going to jump right into it.
Detectives walked into a horror movie come to life the other night, guys. Quite literally. None of them have ever seen anything like this before.
A tip about a disturbing basement display straight out of a horror movie led police to a discovery so extreme that investigators say it was a real-life horror film. Hundreds of human skulls and skeletal remains allegedly taken from desecrated graves. Authorities say the evidence points to an online market for human bones and to 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlock, accused of turning the dead into a collection. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Hey guys, real quick, I want to talk about something that frankly is scary to talk about. And it's not being there for your family. It is something that may cross your mind when you cover jewelry or valuables. Now, we have seen that happen in cemeteries before. It's always despicable, but this case is different because this person was allegedly stealing the dead. According to police, mausoleums and underground vaults, some holding remains over a century old.
Imagine that, right? Just having a grandpa or something, somebody who was alive 100 years ago, just stuck in your basement. It's so weird.
Open and emptied over the course of 2 months. And by late December, detectives from the Yeadon Police Department were piecing together clues. There were energy drink cans that were left at the scenes, a tent stake that was purchased by a suspect. There were license plate reader hits. So it seemed like they were closing in on who was breaking into this cemetery. And their investigation led them to a quiet home in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, and to a 34-year-old man named Jonathan Gerlock. And what they allege that they found inside that house in Lancaster County, it has been described.
Oh, Foxy, no way. You do. Okay, Stream Elements wants to join. We're just going to let him hang out tonight.
Described by seasoned law enforcement officials as something straight out of a horror film. It was a tip that helped crack this case wide open. According to a police affidavit, an acquaintance came forward in December and they said a relative of Jonathan Gerlock had confided in them about seeing something horrifying in Gerlock's basement. The affidavit states that the relative described, quote, a partially decomposed corpse hanging like a display. They said that the body was tied under the shoulders. Now, this tip, titled Corpse in Basement, was the thread detectives started to pull. And as they pulled, Gerlock's own digital world offered a disturbing backdrop. Now, police say his Instagram followed over 500 accounts dedicated to taxidermy, skeleton collecting, oddities, and bone museums. And they found him in a Facebook group that was titled Human Bones.
This guy was literally on Facebook in these groups trading these dead bodies. That's crazy that there's even a group like this that's allowed to be on Facebook. Are they not moderating like the different types of groups that go up there? Human bones and skull selling groups. There's 5,000 members. So imagine how many other people just here in the United States that are doing this.
And skull selling group. Now, we found this group as well, and it is a public Facebook group where people are selling and trading the bones, presumably, of human beings. I didn't even know this was legal. I don't even know if this is legal, and we'll talk more about that as this episode continues on. Now, there is a post in that group from October 2025 that thanked Gerlock and mentioned adding a, quote,
Yeah, he
possible
snitched on
teen
himself, right?
now in the collection. And on a cold January night, police say they watched Gerlock emerge from the darkened cemetery carrying a burlap sack. And when they moved in and arrested him, they looked inside that bag. According to the arrest affidavit, they found the mummified remains of 2 small children, 3 skulls, and other bones. And that arrest led to a search warrant for his home. And what police say they discovered in the basement of 100 Washington Avenue is the kind of scene that haunts investigators. Just reading it haunts you to an extent. Now, I want you to listen here to
Jesse, you said they can be in these Facebook groups, but we aren't allowed to spell certain words correctly without getting flagged. That's crazy.
the Delaware County District Attorney describing that discovery at a news conference.
Detectives walked into a horror movie come to life the other night, guys. This is an unbelievable scene that no one involved, from myself to the detectives to the medical examiners that are now trying to piece together what they are looking at, quite literally. None of them have ever seen anything like this before.
Wow. So this all starts with a cemetery that frankly has seen better days. Mount Moriah is massive. It's 160 acres. It's home to an estimated 150,000 graves. And because it's so big and partially abandoned, it became a target. And according to the district attorney, from November 2025 right up until early January, someone was breaking into the sealed family mausoleum.
Tattoo artist says, so bizarre, and this weirdo had a girlfriend too, and here I am being single. The fuck is going on here?
And the underground burial vaults. Now, the district attorney laid out the sheer scale at that news conference.
26 separate mausoleums and or underground burial sites had been torn into and, for lack of a better word, desecrated.
26 different times in the dead of night, police say that caskets were being broken into to steal human remains. And for weeks, it was a mystery. But then, police say old-fashioned detective work and a high-tech assist started to point them in a direction. They identified a suspect vehicle, a burgundy Toyota RAV4 that started showing up on license plate readers near the cemetery at exactly the times that these
bone collectors boot up.
That car was registered to Jonathan Gerlock, who lived over an hour away in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Now, at the same time, that bizarre tip comes in about a body in a basement. And when detectives look at Gerlock's social media, as the DA put it, it doesn't strike me as a coincidence. Now, they set up surveillance, and on January 6th, they say that they caught up with Gerlock in the act. The district attorney described it like this.
Yaden deserves a hell of a lot of credit on this for doing good old-fashioned police work, going through LPRs, tracking physical evidence, piecing together a suspect, cooperating with CID. We developed that suspect, we laid in wait, and we eventually watched and caught Mr. Gerlock as he desecrated yet another monument as recently as 2 days ago.
Gerlock was arrested, they say, with a crowbar and a burlap bag full of bones. And now at this point...
Damn, so he done already done the job, right? He went in there. This guy has probably been going there for years. He absolutely knew the schedule. the rounds that the security was going on. You know, he was so relaxed that he'd bring his Monster energy drink with him, right, to make sure that he had enough energy to use his crowbar to pry open, um, you know, these caskets and dig out these remains. This guy is disturbing. And here he is, you know, boot up, and everybody in the chat, that's single. I'm sorry, y'all.
Detectives say they knew about the cemetery break-ins, they had their suspect, but they had no idea, according to the district attorney, what they were about to walk into at his home. With Gerlock in custody, they executed a search warrant at his home in Lancaster County, and that is when the single cemetery case exploded
Don't be
into
scared.
something else entirely.
Jazzy, don't be scared. You might find the love of your life. Might have a couple of bones to pick with you, right? But you might find them.
Just looking at the evidence from Mount Moriah, what they had found, according to the DA, was a collection.
Search warrants were executed at his home in Ephrata, where over 100 human skeletons were recovered. And that's in part,
100.
at this point, we are still trying to figure out how many of those are complete and what exactly we are looking at. A separate storage locker was found to be in Mr. Gerlock's possession. That also was in Ephrata. We found there 8 more human remains. Very simply, detectives have recovered an awful lot of bones at this point, and we are still trying to piece together who they are, where they are from, and how many we are looking at, and it's going to be quite some time before we have a final answer. He is now arrested. Bail has been set at $1 million cash by Judge Williams. He is in on 26 counts of burglary, criminal trespass, and a host of other offenses. Kelly Wilson, who's handling...
Hold on. I want to hear the offenses again.
Has been set at $1 million cash.
$1 million bail.
He is in on 26 counts of burglary, criminal trespass, and a host of other offenses. Kelly Wilson, who's handling our media affairs, is going to pass out a complaint so that you guys have the complete list of charges at your disposal. Very simply, detectives walked into a horror movie come to life the other night, guys. This is an unbelievable scene that no one involved, from myself to the detectives to the medical examiners that are now trying to piece together what they are looking at, quite literally. None of them have ever seen anything like this before. When I was 16 years old, a friend of mine was killed in a car accident, and I personally have visited his gravesite, as many people do when they lose a loved one. I know his parents have also visited that site. I cannot imagine what it would put them through to know that someone like this guy had dug up those remains and was doing God knows what with them. It is truly, in the most literal sense of the word, horrific. I grieve for those who are upset by this, who are going through it, who are trying to figure out if it is in fact their loved one or their child, because we found remains that we believe to be months-old infants among those that he had collected. So our hearts go out to every family that is impacted by this. Some of these are hundreds of years.
This guy was like bartering off all of these skeletal remains like antiques, right? This is, oh man, this guy definitely had an obsession. That is wild. And I'm wondering if he made a lot of money off of this stuff or if he was just trading them for other remains.
We are trying to figure out exactly what we are looking at. We quite simply at this juncture are not able to date and identify all of them.
Now, following this discovery, Jonathan Gerlock was formally charged. According to the Delaware County District Attorney's Office in Pennsylvania, he now faces more than 500 criminal counts, and those charges include 26 counts of burglary for breaking into the mausoleums and vaults, 100 counts of abuse of a corpse, one for each set of remains allegedly found, 100 counts of theft and receiving stolen property for the stolen remains, and multiple counts of desecration of a venerated object, a historic burial place, and a public monument. And now the scope of this alleged collection and how police say it was built is laid out in stark, chilling detail in the search warrant affidavit. So let's start with how they say he was getting these remains. According to the affidavit, this wasn't a delicate operation. For the underground vaults, he's accused of using broken wooden pallets as makeshift ladders to climb down into crypts that were 10 to 12 feet deep. And he allegedly used pry bars and crowbars to smash through marble seals and casket lids. And he was...
Okay, so let me just, hold on really quick before we continue. Let me just read off his charges, right? So, and I don't know if they mentioned all of them. So he's got 26 counts of burglary, not adapted for overnight accommodations, no person present. He's got 26 counts of criminal trespass, um, which is a felony 3 for entering a structure. He's got 26 counts of criminal trespass, which is a felony 2 for entering structure. He's got 100 counts of abuse of a corpse. It's crazy because that's a misdemeanor 2, right? He's got 100 counts of theft by unlawful taking, which is felony 3. 100 counts of receiving stolen property, felony 3. 26 counts of intentional desecration of public monument, which is a misdemeanor 2. He's got 26 counts of intentional desecration of venerated object, misdemeanor 2. 26 counts of intentional desecration of historic lots and burial places, which is a misdemeanor 1. 26 counts of criminal mischief, damaging property, misdemeanor 3. And 7 counts of being a defiant trespasser. That is crazy. Yeah, so he was booked at the George W. Hill Correctional Facility, and bail was set to $1 million cash. So this guy has a preliminary hearing coming up on January 20th, 2026.
Wasn't exactly careful about covering his tracks. Quote, located inside of the Pritchard Mausoleum amongst the debris caused by the damaged cinder block and marble was a 24-ounce Monster energy drink can. The can still had some liquid inside. Located within the Ogden family plot was a partially smoked Marlboro menthol cigarette, a pair of black framed glasses.
Oh, he needed to make sure that he had his Marlboro menthols. That's crazy because you can't even buy menthol cigarettes here in California anymore. But he got his Marlboro menthols. Okay, pair of black framed glasses. They were located on the ground. I hope they weren't sunglasses. That'd be really weird to be wearing them at night.
Were located on the ground. So it appears Gerlock, if all of this is true, did not do much to cover his tracks. There was also one black 15-inch hyper tough pry bar that was located on the ground within the Luber family plot. Now, police say they traced one piece of evidence, a black metal tent stake found near a disturbed grave, directly back to Gerlock. According to the warrant, he had shoplifted from an Ace Hardware store on Halloween, October 31st, but he did pay for a few items that day with his credit card. And one of those purchased items, quote, one of the items purchased was listed on the receipt as tent stake steel, 12 inches. The detective measured the recovered stake that was located near the...
Does anybody smoke cigarettes anymore? Man, I remember back in the days, right, when cigarettes used to cost like $2 a pack, and then New York was like $10, and that was something that was just ridiculous, right? And now, I mean, I don't know how much cigarettes are now, but I'm pretty sure they're upwards of like $10 to $13. Why can't you? They passed a law to stop selling all like menthol flavored cigarettes. I don't know how it is out there, but they've also cracked down on like vaping and stuff. So you're not supposed to be able to buy vapes out here, or at least flavored vapes.
The Ziegler plot on December 26, 2025.
Okay. Cindy from sunny South Florida says, I do, but she rolls her own. Newports were $6 a pack when you used to smoke, and that was outrageous. Now that's probably nothing for a pack. Yeah, that's probably like a steal, right? People probably go crazy over a $6 pack.
Confirmed that it was, in fact, 12 inches in length. Quote, look into Jonathan Gerlock for the Luzerne County Mausoleum robbery.
Oh, yeah, these taxes, these laws out here in California.
Family, and they mentioned that they recently
they're ridiculous out here.
Partially decomposed corpse hanging.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Newports in New York are $20. Damn, ain't that some bullshit? I'm curious how much it costs to just roll your own type of cigarettes.
In his basement, but were afraid to tell police. They suspect he may be behind the Luzerne County Mausoleum robbery, which happened around the same time in early November. The mausoleum was robbed.
A pack of 20? So they sell like the cartons? Wow. Cindy says it costs about $1.25 per pack. That's crazy. So you have that machine that you gotta like stuff the tobacco in, put the cigarette filter, and then like pack it and stuff. That's wild.
between November 1st and 6th.
Or
And
or
Jonathan
or do you literally just like roll your own and then put the filter in? Because I know that they have those I don't know what they're called. They have those little things that you can roll. Not me looking for it. I don't know what I have here. Don't mind me. I don't got anything here.
was charged with shoplifting in East Earl Township on Halloween, October 31st. Now, while not a crime, you will see on his Instagram that he follows accounts in taxidermy, skeleton collecting, and sales oddities,
Like something like
as well
this.
as bones, etc. He also disappeared for a few days in November and
Yeah, it's
mentioned
crazy, huh?
that he had been in Chicago.
You can't even have a habit anymore because it costs too much.
Selling a human skull. But perhaps the most damning digital evidence, according to the affidavit, came from his cell phone records and location data.
The
The
lean mean
affidavit
rolling
states prior
machine.
to November 2025, his phone had never pinged near the cemetery. Then suddenly it was there repeatedly, overnight, aligning
Wow.
perfectly with the break-ins. Quote, on October 31st, 2025, from 22:30 hours to November 1st, 2025 at 08:50 hours, Gerlock's cell phone was utilizing cellular resources that cover Mount Moriah Cemetery. Quote, on November 3rd, 2025, from 13:35 hours to 17:06.
Dang, this guy would spend hours there. So he'd go there as early. Dang, he went as early as 1 o'clock in the afternoon, stay there till 5. Oh,
Hours, Gerlach's
that's
cell phone
nasty.
was utilizing cell resources that cover 1510 Westminster Road,
Jess,
Plains
why are you
Township,
selling
Pennsylvania.
bones,
It's
sir?
the location of another reported
The
mausoleum
economy.
burglary. So the evidence could stack up here that he could face even more charges, not just for what allegedly happened at Moriah Cemetery and Mausoleum outside Philadelphia. Now,
I'm curious if that photo that they just showed has skull. Those are skulls, huh? It's for the art, right? That's what he probably said. It's for the art.
at Moriah Cemetery and Mausoleum outside Philadelphia. Now, on December 23rd, 2025, from
This is 2 days before Christmas, too. So he was there until, oh my God. From 9:58, December 23rd, from 9:58, he spent almost 12 hours there. Wow.
1:58 hours to December 24th, 2025, at 08:29 hours, Gerlock's cell phone was utilizing cellular resources that cover Mount Moriah Cemetery. Now, all of this led to the surveillance and arrest on January 6th. And after his arrest, police say Gerlock made a series of
He was
statements
stealing
that,
Santa's
according to the
bones.
warrant, amount to a confession. Quote, Gerlock was Mirandized and stated that he removed the human
Yep,
bones
that
from a
economy,
grave
right?
within Mount Moriah Cemetery. Gerlock was later interviewed at Delaware County CID headquarters, where he admitted to stealing approximately 30 sets of human remains from Mount Moriah Cemetery.
Turn
Gerlock
this off.
stated that he sold some remains online, but that the vast majority of them were in the basement of his current residence. So let's break down what police say they found, because according to the affidavit, a review of Gerlock's Instagram profile, which we have been blurring, by the way, because of the rules on YouTube and the internet, that the
What did that say?
list of skulls, and there's even
What was his name?
that which we have
Dead Shit Daddy? Okay. All right, y'all. If you guys want your private consultations for your set of bones, make sure you hit up Dead Shit Daddy.
been blurring, by the way, because of the rules on YouTube and the internet, that the just long list of skulls, and there's even animal skeletons that he has that are all on his Instagram. We have to blur them because those are human remains, and we can't show you those things on social media. It is just, I kind of paused because it was just incredibly chilling to scroll through his Instagram when we were putting this story together. But that profile revealed that he was following 533 accounts, and the most
Well,
explicit
you
finding
can no longer find him on social media. Just in case you guys were, looking for a bone collector, you can't find him anymore.
though, they were really on his Facebook page because detectives located a profile for Gerlock and, more significantly, his membership in that specific group that was called Human Bones and Skulls Selling Group. Now, within this group, detectives say they found a post from October 16th, 2025 from another user, and it's a post which
Mama
tagged
Jack's
Gerlock
welcome.
stating, quote, "Mail call yet, as always, LOL, got a possible teen now in the collection and a baboon and a monkey that was part of a human skin bag. Thanks,
McDizzle.
NFS."
Looking for a bone
NFS
collector?
is online marketplace shorthand for not for sale. Joining us now, Joseph Scott Morgan, professor of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University. Always great to have you here
You
on
bet.
Law and Crime. Wow. This case, just hearing to be a detective and to walk into this man's house in Lancaster County and to see what they say he saw. I know you have seen a lot in your career, and probably, I don't know if anything can keep you up late at night after, just a career of the work that you do. I just, first, before we dive into it, have you ever seen a case like this? Because I can't imagine the detectives, after walking into this home and seeing what they saw, to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, not on this scale. This is, people throw this term around, Chris. I hate to use it, but it's almost industrial scale. When you think about how much time is involved in trying to get these kind of remains. So if you're a detective and you're used to working, I don't know, you think burglaries and theft. This is a theft case at the beginning, but then it gets really, really dark. One of the terrifying things about this to me.
You know what? I'm curious though, right? Not to make the situation funny, because it's not, right? But I'm curious though, if he's like digging these things up and putting the dirt back, or is he just digging them up and then moving on to the next mausoleum, or the next grave? I mean, he's is he that dumb to just leave everything? Oh, I'm gonna let you guys answer that in the chat.
I hate basements, and the fact that these police officers would have had to have, from what we're hearing, would have had to have descended down into the basement of this home. It's almost like a Silence of the Lambs
Rachel, don't
moment.
be telling on
Yeah.
yourself
When you
now.
think about it, the horror that was revealed, to the closest thing I can think of is this guy's back in the 50s in Plainview, Wisconsin, when they walked into Ed Gein's house and they saw what they beheld before them is something that they couldn't even. It's like, what
Probably brought a blanket with them, right? Little sleeping bag, took off his shoes and got comfortable for a second.
am I seeing this right? Am I seeing
Right.
what I think I'm seeing?
Well, and that was it. It's like, it is cliche to be like it was straight out of a horror movie, and I'm guilty
Yeah.
of using that term, or saying it was like a TV show. But this one, truly, when you just hear about what was in the show or
Yeah.
in the home, you're just like, how is this even possible? Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre level, just terror when you think of all these things in. The other part of it too is that, like, we found his Instagram. And we couldn't show the pictures on YouTube because, I mean, they're human remains and there's kind of rules about that. But you just go through, he wasn't allegedly hiding anything. I mean,
No.
this was open market of, hey, I have this, I have that. And then there's this Facebook group that he was part of where people are, it was a public Facebook group. I mean, we looked at it, and people are just selling human remains, like bones. Like, is
Yeah.
that legal? I've never seen that, or I guess I've never paid attention to it before, but like, how is there an open, like, almost legal market for this type
There's
of
not
stuff?
an open market for it. These things are tightly controlled. We've covered a couple of cases. I know I have on body bags. You guys may have at Long Crime because these things went to trial. Are you familiar with these cases like where there are funeral homes that are
Yeah.
dismembering bodies and they're selling the parts for medical research that are out there? I think there was like one I know of in Colorado. But the way this differs is that that's like fresh tissue, when you think about that. And, we use anatomical
Desert Druzy, how's it going?
specimens in
Welcome.
order to study human anatomy. Obviously, even here at Jack State, I have a human anatomy lab. that I use for my medical legal classes. And I have human remains, but those are sourced through a very specific controlled environment. You're talking about an individual that has he's obviously fancies himself an entrepreneur, right? He's going to go out and essentially rob graves. Um, One of the images that came to mind was, and forgive me because I like visiting graveyards. I'm from New Orleans originally, so if you ever get the chance to go to New Orleans, one of the things that you do down there are cemetery tours, and there's a lot of beauty in them, particularly the mausoleums. And I'm
Yep.
thinking, this guy,
Right?
he is,
Facebook is just
has this
way too easy.
entrepreneurial bent to him. When he walks into, and I'm thinking about the Mount Moriah Cemetery, um, dude, it's like walking into a big box store for him. Just think about that, because now he's reduced the grief, the horror, the loneliness,
Lexi,
all of
welcome,
the
welcome.
stuff that these families experienced, maybe going back to all the way to the 1850s. Mount Moriah was established in the 1850s. It's a Victorian era cemetery. He's taken all that and monetized it. Just let that sink in just for a second. And that again is one piece to this that's beyond kind of like the horror narrative. This gets into literally flesh trade at this point in time,
Yeah.
where you're benefiting
Military
off
Ma,
of
welcome.
this exchange that's going on. The fact that they were so bold that they're going to have this on Facebook. You got to be kidding me, man. And no one was batting an eye at it initially.
No, and I think too of just how brazen this is, not just the selling allegedly of these bones and skulls and all the different things that he had and other people online as well. But since he is facing the charges for this Gerlock, at the scene they found like a half-drank monster. They found like a Marlboro cigarette. Like he did not hide the fact that he was doing this. And I don't know, if he felt like it was something that people weren't going to pick up on it or track him down to it, or maybe it wasn't a big deal. He thought in his own weird way. I don't know, but it's like he didn't hide any
David's gonna come out with a grave digging soundtrack. Foxy, you crazy, you wild.
part of this. And the question too for me is like I think of these families, and there are
Yeah.
some remains that are 200 years old that he allegedly stole, but then there's also the remains of infant children from modern time.
Yeah.
How do you now sift through like what is the science behind figuring out who these people are and how you get the families the remains back?
Yeah, this is a big piece to this, Chris, and it is, it's a fight. We've had
Imagine being his girlfriend and finding out. Surely she had to know, right? He had so many. Um, there's no way she didn't know. I'm curious what she. I, there's absolutely no way that his girlfriend did not know, unless she had no idea that that house had a basement.
other cases in the past. I'm thinking right now, and I urge everybody within the sound of my voice to check out this case. It's the Tri County crematory case out of Georgia that involved three separate Tri County or Tri State. I'm sorry, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. And this was a crematory where a guy was, literally not cremating remains. He was allowing the remains to decompose on his property and giving back families burned wood and ash and gravel in a sealed thing. And so that
Look, if his basement looks like that, right? If my girlfriend's basement looked like that, there's gonna be some problems.
burned wood and ash and gravel in a sealed thing. And so they still have cases,
Come on, Foxy.
this is back
He
in the
didn't
90s,
know.
I think, or the
You
early
think
2000s,
he didn't know?
where some of those remains are unidentified. How much more so with a case like this? Because you've got these kind of remains that go back, like I stated, perhaps all the way to the 1850s. Okay. And then you have modern cases. I think that this is going to be a big area. This is just my opinion, a big area where forensic genetic genealogy could actually play a role. There's a case that we covered on body bags.
So I just looked it up, and in this state of Pennsylvania, the courts are public. What does it say here? It says most court proceedings are open for the public to sit in and watch. This includes criminal trials for preliminary hearings, jury selections, and the trial itself. Civil proceedings for lawsuits, landlord-tenant disputes, and traffic cases. So, who asked that question? Fizgig? The answer is yeah.
That Othram handled, involving, it was called the Lady in the Well case. And this lady had gone missing in just after World War One, and they recovered skeletal remains down in this well. She had been a murder victim, and I think that the police showed.
Desert Druzy said, from what I understand, those historical cemeteries rely on volunteers to keep them maintained. The cemetery wasn't being maintained, and he worked right out in the open. And so, if people had to volunteer for that, so there's absolutely not a lot of staff, right? Probably had a lot of empty places to roam around. And he knew, right? He knew that he wasn't going to be monitored. So, he just went to town.
And this is in Toronto, I think. Police showed up at her granddaughter's
Incognito
home
said,
and
another
said, "Are
collector
you
of
related
stranger
to this
items.
person?" And it turned out she was. They did a genetic match there. But he's got so many remains, Chris, that this is going to be a Herculean effort on the part of whoever's going to get them
Yeah,
identified.
you get your
The
rest,
first thing
Rachel.
that you're
We'll
going to
be
have to
here.
do is go to all of these little sites, and I don't buy into. They're saying that this may have begun back in November. I ain't buying that. I think that this guy he's very comfortable with this. I would suspect that they're probably tracking back to wherever he's been
That would be
domiciled
crazy.
before, or if there are any other similar burglaries. It kind of sounds weird to say that about a graveyard, right? Burglary slash thefts in other associated graveyards, or maybe he's got people that are involved with him, because this is like a land rush, man. I mean, you get in here and people feel comfortable robbing graves. Um, so you're going to have this commingling of remains. You talked about, how he's kind of storing these bodies. Well, were the bodies intact when he got them? Was there still any remnant of tissue, clothing that were holding the bodies in place to a certain degree in an intact
Yeah,
state, or is
there
everything gone
absolutely
now?
were. I wish I could show you some of these photos that they had. I don't know if they'd be suitable to show them on social media, but I've definitely seen a few videos on Instagram, and it these photos are just disturbing. This guy literally had torsos hanging in the basement, just kind of hung up by a wire. He even had an infant corpse, decapitated, no head. It was just the torso in like child's clothes. And it would just kind of bother me, right? Because like now we're able to see these kind of things on Instagram. And these were some of the things that, we'd have to dig deep in the internet to find. And now they're just out there in the open on social media. Makes me wonder if like, kids, younger kids who have access to Instagram are being exposed to these kind of videos.
Just talk about multiple skeletal remains. Well, how do you treat these? Because, for instance, if we're recovering a body, myself, along with, forensic anthropologists out in the field, we're very, very careful about excavating the scene and getting every tiny little skeletal remnant, and we keep that contained. That guy is not interested in keeping things contained. It's like, hey, you want a human femur? I've got 6 to choose from. I've
Oh,
got 7 to choose from. Oh, and check out all the skulls that I have, because apparently there are a bunch of skulls that he has, and so it's not like he's keeping all this stuff together. He's sourcing the stuff to have customers.
yeah, you
Okay.
might have to
And
use that one,
when
Cindy,
what's
right?
missing is, well, how much other stuff has he sold that's circulating out there?
Because I wonder too, if he was selling to people out of state in Pennsylvania and you're crossing state lines in a very
Yeah.
weird and twisted way,
Yeah.
like that's an interstate commerce, which would be a federal charge.
Oh yeah. Allegedly, I'm hearing. I'm assuming you're hearing the same thing. There's apparently a trip that's involved where he goes to Chicago, um, and
And does an
to
actual
sell a
trade.
skull.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how that went down specifically, but just the fact that he stole something like this, and and he's in possession of it. He gets in his vehicle, drives across, how much ever geographical area is separates.
Military ma. You worked a 10-hour shift today. You got home, hopped into bed, and they called you back to work? Why didn't you just stay home? Don't answer your phone. I, w- I wouldn't have answered.
him from his home in Pennsylvania and hands it. I can't imagine he's only doing this for a couple of $100, right? You're going to
Are you working in healthcare? Or are you like a nurse? I'm curious what line of work you're in. I mean, you're in the military. I'm curious. 10-hour shift to come home just to go right back to work? Are you guys that short staffed?
blow your profit margin. Okay,
Right.
just the trip itself. Let's say he makes $1,000 off of it. Well, that's worth the gas money. Plus, he's now got somebody in Chicago that says, "Hey, man, I got a skull from a guy in Pennsylvania. Anybody in the group
Private home care. Totally get it. That's the line of work that I work in. So totally get it.
here need anything else because he's our guy." And that kind of escalates and it goes out exponentially. I have all kinds of fears that are associated with this because I'm wanting to know if this is a singular event, if this guy is isolated, or if there's a whole group. And going back to the Facebook thing, is there a whole group of people that are engaged in this ghastly commerce? It's absolutely horrific. And yeah, you bet your bottom dollar the feds are interested in this. They're going to be taking a long, long look at this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was as we were putting the story together, the court document said like, "Oh, this was the Facebook group he was a part of," and then it was like, "Oh, let me just search this on Facebook," and then it was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I can't believe that this is actually a real thing." And there are, I know on one of his
But just imagine, right? If he's looking this kind of stuff up on the internet, imagine all the other stuff that he's just looking up on a daily basis just to satisfy his needs of browsing the internet, right? Man, I wonder what else this guy was. And I really hope that he wasn't doing anything sexual with these. Yeah, I really hope that he wasn't doing it with them because that'd be disgusting.
posts
That's
on
a
his
whole other level of sick, right? Oh, yeah.
Instagram, he allegedly wrote that he was like it was like ethically sourced was the term that he used, and it's like where would you even ethically source something like that? And then clearly, if all of this is true, it was not ethically sourced.
Does ethically sourced involve a crowbar in a
Right.
in a graveyard and a burlap sack? It doesn't sound like anything. It doesn't sound like anything relative that you could frame it out that way because this is what's the term people use? This is bad optics. Because when he was actually nabbed, and this had been this had been going on for a while, and the police had taken notice of it. Obviously, there have been complaints and reports and all this stuff. There's this one law enforcement officer, that's kind of staking this thing out. I think that they may have been, they
Yeah,
may have had.
I'm very curious to know if there is an actual way to ethically source these human remains. I mean, I
Never
don't
heard
really
that,
want to
by the
know,
way.
but I'm curious.
He, he sees this guy in the midst of this event, and he finds him with a burlap sack, which is terrifying for some reason on one level to me. Um, and walking out of a graveyard, I think he's got a screwdriver. He's got a crowbar. Here's something else that people might find interesting. Did you know there's a whole classification within most the canon of most criminal law in states that actually identifies what we refer to as burglary tools? And so you'll have this come up. It came up in Ted Bundy's case, for instance, because he had a set of burglary tools. And these things might be things that we have in our garage at home and whatnot. But you're carrying a crowbar, a large screwdriver, those things are meant to pry with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's left a whole chain of evidence behind as well, because if that is his crowbar that he's utilizing, it's going to have striations on it that are going to transfer to these mausoleum doors. For instance, if you have to pry these things open, some of these things have not been unlocked in years and years and years. And then he's going to get into the mausoleum itself and see the individual crypts. Now, I'm just kind of throwing this out there. You have to get the facing off the crypt itself. So, is he also
Mm-hmm.
using the crowbar to pry this thing open? And then are there casketed remains within there? I'm going to be very fascinated to find out what the interior of this mausoleums look like. Was it a kind of an ordered event, or did he just go about smashing the entire side of it to gain access to the bodies as quickly as he?
I'm curious the kind of things that you saw, military ma. I'm curious what little oddities you found browsing on Facebook Marketplace.
Possibly can. And then everything, the debris is just kind of lying there, and he will have left a uh, um, uh, forensic footprint, if you will, in very generalized terms,
Yeah.
behind in all of this. And then you can connect methodologies here. He likes to use a pry bar, just like any other burglar, pry bar, crowbar. He's going to do something with a screwdriver. Then, not to mention any kind of tools that are involved in how he's handling the bodies, once he gets them back to his home. Um, kind of, uh, tempted to use the word lair here. Lair, kind of evil.
Yeah.
You're going back to this location. What are you doing with these bones? Because there have been people out there over the years. There's been a number of cases where they'll do ornamental decorative stuff on bones themselves, and they will sell them. Famously things like sterling silver. They'll put coatings on them. They'll make vessels out of them, for drinking and eating and all these sorts of things. Because look, you might think that sounds absurd, dude. Nothing's absurd at this point. Okay, when you're thinking about this guy going into a cemetery and literally robbing these graves.
And I think too, it just goes back to the Monster energy drink that was there and the Marlboro
Yeah.
cigarette, and like if this was a
This guy really needed his cigarettes and his Monster Energy drink to prepare for this, right? I got to make sure I stay up late, stay up for a long time. I have the energy to make sure that I can remove these crypts. Yeah, this guy was definitely on one. I'm curious if he has a history of drug use too.
show. And so, to kind of make the movie reference again, you'd be like, no criminal would be this brazen to do this
No.
so out in the open. But apparently, that's what he was doing, according to investigators. One other part, too, for me, and like this is where it does get kind of morbid, but I think of like how did he live in this house
Yeah.
with the smell and just the chemicals that must have been in the air if he is taking bodies and even their bones at that point and then having them in his house, because there were some on the Instagram, and like I don't know how to phrase this in a way, but it's like there's hair still on some of
Yeah.
the parts
Oh,
that were there.
hell
I don't know
no.
how else to kind of put it in a way that doesn't give you like
You
make your
did
skin crawl,
a
but it's like, how does he
fantastic
live in
job.
this
Yeah.
home? Yeah.
Yeah, people need to be aware of what we're talking about here. You can't shy away from that. That's the reality of this. And before I get into that, just let me state this could be any one of our kinfolks, any one of our loved ones, people that, took care of us when we were little.
Yeah.
Think about how horrible that is. Your grandma, your grandpa, whoever it is, and this guy is utilizing these remains, for his own gain at this point in time. So back to the home. The home is a big piece to this. When you think about if you're just talking about the home as a storage facility, one of the problems that people don't realize with these
Trying to
old
find the link
burials
to the Instagram that I
is that
saw.
years ago when bodies were first being embalmed and that sort of thing, guess what they used to embalm bodies with? Heavy metals. So those things have incredible half-lives on them. So he's going into this environment.
All right, you guys. So if you guys are a member and you guys have joined the Discord, I'm gonna post the video of the actual Instagram um in the chat, and then you guys can check it out from there. Let me see. Hold on. Make sure I do this right. No. Okay. All right. I just put it up in the Discord. So if you guys are in the Discord, which is a members only Discord where we talk about everything behind the scenes before we go live or where we continue the conversation, We definitely carry this conversation to a deeper level for most cases, especially when we talk about the David case. Um, so if you guys want to consider becoming a member, we got very cheap, affordable tiers. I know it's super late, so y'all don't have to. But if you guys want to see the video, it's in the Discord.
And he's prying these things open. He's collecting these remains, which are, by the way, potentially contaminated with heavy metals. He's bringing them into his home, into the basement, mind you. Okay. And whoever lives around him, whoever lives around him is subject to contamination as well. And I don't think that that's even I don't. I think that that's easily considered here. Because he's exposing everybody else. Not to mention, let's just say he has purchasers that are coming down into his basement. Come and see my wares. They're being exposed to this, and they don't think about this sort of thing. If he's doing anything with those bones, by the way, relative to carving them, etching them in any way, he's creating all this almost like a
Oh,
histamine in the air with the bone dust that's contaminated. All right. So we talked about the FBI,
oh,
right?
yeah. Oh,
Guess who else
God.
is going to be interested in this? The EPA. Because if you go back to try,
Oh, I can only imagine like the risk that he put not only himself, his girlfriend, but like the neighbors and the community around him, especially if they're the remains give off fumes. Um, I'm sure some of them maybe they've got to be contaminated with like heavy metals and stuff. So I can just imagine like the level of caution that they probably had to have take after they went in and discovered all of these remains. So yeah, having the EPA makes sense.
the tri-state crematory case, the EPA was all over that case. They were worried about contaminated groundwater up there. All right.
Groundwater,
Because this
wow.
stuff is like, it's really insidious when you think about it. And everybody's being exposed. There's also supposed to be a storage unit involved in this. So he's storing remains in a storage unit. And we've all been in one of these damn things. You think that it's all sealed up and everything else. Well, everybody that's approximating the specimens in there, their stuff and that environment.
And Jazz, you brought up a good point, right? Why did he bring up cutting into the bones and the metals and such? They know something. I mean, think about it, right? If he's a bone collector, I don't know if he's considered an artist or just a connoisseur of bones. Um, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to take an etching tool and to carve little designs into the skull and sell it as a decorated human skull for that fact. So I would not put it past this Jonathan Gerlock to do that.
Runs a risk of being contaminated as well. Do you see how this thing kind of replicates itself?
Yeah.
And for every remain that you pull out of there, you're running the risk of contamination. So this is much broader than, say, for instance, just somebody selling a human bone. Okay. This is about grave robbery. It's about exposing the public to potential chemical harm here because
I don't know what
you
they're
don't you
showing.
don't know what's going on. How these bodies were preserved, what chemical kind of
All that
con-
formaldehyde that they used to embalm the body. That's yeah.
concoction that was used to facilitate this. It's stuff that we still worry about today. And now he's going back to when things were really, really toxic. He's cracking these graves open and exposing not just himself, but everybody, potential customers, and certainly his neighbors as well.
Incognito.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this, and it's
Yeah,
just I think at the core of it, it is I just feel for the families to find
I do
out
too.
if to get that call that I'm sure that's just a feeling that'd be hard to describe, and I hope they get justice in a case like this. Professor of Applied Forensics at Jacksonville State University, Joseph Scott Morgan. What a story this one is. I'm sure it's not the last time we'll talk about it. Thanks for being with us.
You bet, Chris. Take care.
Jonathan Gerlock remains behind bars on a $1 million bond. He does have a preliminary hearing scheduled.
So I want to go back and I want to watch the actual the press conference that they had where I think it was the DA that came out and discussed this whole thing, the moment that they discovered everything. So let me pull this up really quick. This was on ABC 6 in Philadelphia. Let me pull this up really quick. Just listen to his voice and just the level of disgust he's in.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanner Rouse. I'm the District Attorney of Delaware County, and we are here today because of the arrest of 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlock of Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Over the course of the last several weeks, detectives from Yeadon Borough as well as Delaware County CID became aware that from November of 2025 up until 2 days ago, January of 2026, Mount Moriah Cemetery had been burglarized by, at that point, an unknown individual. 26 separate mausoleums and or underground burial sites had been torn into and, for lack of a better word, desecrated. Investigation took place. Yeadon deserves a hell of a lot of credit on this for doing good old-fashioned police work, going through LPRs, tracking physical evidence, piecing together a suspect, cooperating with CID. We developed that suspect. We laid in wait, and we eventually watched and caught Mr. Gerlock.
Imagine somebody putting up $100,000 of their own money just to bail him out.
As he desecrated yet another monument as recently as 2 days ago. He was taken into custody. Search warrants were executed at his home in Ephrata, where over 100 human skeletons were recovered. And that's in part, at this point, we are still trying to figure out how many of those are complete and what exactly we are looking at. A separate storage locker was found to be in Mr. Gerlock's possession. That also was in Ephrata. We found there 8 more human remains. Very simply, detectives have recovered an awful lot of bones at this point, and we are still trying to piece together who they are, where they are from, and how many we are looking at, and it's going to be quite some time before we have a final answer. He is now arrested. Bail has been set at $1 million cash.
Yeah, incognito, but you know what they say, right? You never want to meet your superhero
by Judge Williams. He is in on 26
or your
counts
hero.
of burglary, criminal trespass, and a host of other offenses. Kelly Wilson, who's handling our media affairs, is going to pass out a complaint so that you guys have the complete list of charges at your disposal. Very simply, detectives walked into a horror movie come to life the other night, guys. This is an unbelievable scene that no one involved, from myself to the detectives to the medical examiners that are now trying to piece together what they are looking at, quite literally. None of them have ever seen anything like this before. When I was 16 years old, a friend of mine was killed in a car accident, and I personally have visited his gravesite, as many people do when they lose a loved one. I know his parents have also visited that site. I cannot imagine what it would put them through to know that someone like this guy had dug up those remains and was doing God knows what with them. It is truly, in the most literal sense of the word, horrific. I grieve for those who are upset by this, who are going through it, who are trying to figure out if it is in fact their loved one or their child, because we found remains that we believe to be months-old infants among those that he had cooked. So our hearts go out to every family that is impacted by this. Some of these are hundreds of years old. We are trying to figure out exactly what we are looking at. We quite simply, at this juncture, are not able to date and identify all of them.
The Undertaker.
I want to make some thank yous here because this was truly a collaborative effort. As you guys can imagine, this spanned from here to Lancaster County. The Ephrata Police Department was instrumental in gaining access to and executing.
Anna, welcome.
The Philadelphia Police Department was cooperative. This is Mount Moriah Cemetery, and that spans Yeadon Borough into Philadelphia. We had to have their cooperation throughout this, guys. They were. Those cases are now going to be handled in Delaware County. We've reached out to law enforcement agencies there, and jurisdiction has been transferred to Delaware County. Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office lent support throughout this process. Pennsylvania State Police, the Delaware and Lancaster County Medical Examiner's Office, who are now in possession of these remains. We thank them for their cooperation. This was obviously an overnight job. There is a lot that needs to be done to collect and humanely preserve these remains. We are working diligently to make sure that happens. The Lancaster County District Attorney's Office, the Middle Creek Search and Rescue Canine Unit, which helped us get in there initially, and the Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery. It should be noted.
Jazzy, you're disgusting. Why do I feel like he had his girl pose with the bodies? I'm gonna stop because sometimes I'm right. If I hear about some lingerie and body shoots on his phone, I'm gonna crash the F out, bro. Yeah, that's pretty disgusting.
This happened at Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah did everything they could to cooperate with law enforcement and keep this from happening again. This happened, as you guys will see in the complaint, under the cloak of darkness, very much secreted from public view. This guy did everything in his power to secretly and silently grave rob. Mount Moriah did everything they could to stop him from doing it, but as you can imagine, a cemetery that size, it is very difficult. We thank them for their cooperation throughout this process. I'm going to turn it over now to Mayor Rohan Hepkins of Yaden before we take questions.
Thank you very much, Tanner, District Attorney Tanner Rouse. Just want to say this was quite a heinous act, very depraved. I've never heard anything like this. It defies logic or comprehension. And as the District Attorney just stated, it's something literally out of a horror movie. When you have your loved ones interred, you respect their remains, you respect them.
I know, Anna, sorry. I know I'm on super late. This was really unexpected. I was really testing out StreamYard on another software to stream, and that obviously didn't sound right. So I'm glad he didn't check that one out. But we decided to come back and just do a little late night live.
Into perpetuity, and to have this type of heinous act happen is
fair warning, you guys.
Is beyond.
If he's got a lock on his basement and you're not allowed to go down there, he ain't the one. That's what Foxy says.
Dignity or anything that we can comprehend or imagine. So this started when the Friends of Mount Moriah reached out to me, and I got wind of it that Mount
There you
Moriah
go.
is half of Mount Moriah is on borders Philadelphia, Southwest Philadelphia, and half of Mount Moriah is located in Yaden, separated
Just
by
run.
Fox Creek. And I notified our chief, Henry Gianmarco, who deserves a lot of thanks and praise for this. And he sprung into action and had patrols at night, detectives, and we caught him. We were on to, got some leads and involved, reach out to the district attorney, CID, and we caught him, I believe, 2 days ago.
Wow.
So I also want to give a shout out to the Yaden Police Department for breaking the case, the Philadelphia Police Department, and of course our district attorney's office of Delaware County. And we want to send the word out that you cannot come into Yaden in Delaware County and commit crimes. Okay,
I know that's right.
We're gonna
Okay.
find you, and you're not going to be able to get away with something like this. So it could have been a lot worse if we didn't.
I mean, how much worse can it get? This guy had over 100 bodies in his basement. And who knows how long he's been doing this for.
As quickly as we did, and for the families involved, they're grave sites that are over 200 years old. Mount Moriah is very historical.
Wow.
Because every war from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II, and beyond have soldiers buried in that cemetery. As a matter of fact, Betsy Ross was first interred at Mount Moriah, I believe on the Yaden side, before her body was exhumed and brought back to Philadelphia in a special vault. So it's very historic, and I'm sorry that something like this happened, but thank God that we got to the bottom of it, and hopefully, and also one of the things I realized why it was an inviting target is that Mount Moriah is so open. It's hard to, it's not fenced in. There's easy access in like a million places. So it was easy to access that type of graveyard because it's just so open. But because of that, it should be pristine and kept and honored and treasured. But we have individuals today in today's world that don't respect any type of those boundaries or dignity.
And take his Netflix password away.
Everybody else involved at this time, including my police chief, Henry Gianmarco. I wonder if he has any words he'd like to share at this time.
Good afternoon, all. I just want to again echo what District Attorney Ralph said, and also what Mayor Hepkins said. it's important to understand the collaboration of us working together with the district attorney's office. They've been supportive to us and they constantly support us. And special thanks to Detective Leah Sesnick from the Aden Police Department and also Detective Carr from CID. They did a hell of a job. And again, we're out there and having the support of Tanner and other local law enforcement agencies. It just shows when we break down silos, we can work together. Thank you.
If I didn't do enough thanking, I want to do it one more time. Detective Sesnick, who I know is around the corner, Detective Carr, this was really excellent work. It really was. This is good old-fashioned police work to make sure we got this guy. So I'm very appreciative of their efforts. So I'll thank them again. Then we'll take questions. If you can just do me a favor, identify yourself and where you're from, just so I can get to know you guys a little bit. I would appreciate it very much. Yeah.
Hi, Anna Durante, NBC 10.
I do. How are you? Good.
So it's possible here that your detectives, your agencies didn't just crack a case that was happening in Yaden, because this does appear to be a statewide.
Wow.
It almost certainly did not only happen in Yaden. Whether or not it's statewide and exactly what that means, Zena, we don't know.
So they're going to be looking for all the weirdos.
Almost certain that this is not exclusive to Yaden.
Are you talking with investigators, say, in Plains Township, Luzerne County?
We are, yes, that outreach is beginning now. Truthfully, we were a little bit handcuffed because we didn't know what we were going to find in that house. Now that we are
The Xanax?
aware
The
of
blue pill?
extent of what's going on,
What blue pill?
that's beginning more fully.
John Paul with 6 ABC. Can you tell us a little bit more about
Reddit.
the skeletons in the house?
Foxy, you're wild.
Where were they? What condition were they in? What was he doing with them?
So, John, a lot remains to be determined at this point. They were in the basement predominantly, although, as you can imagine, with 100 remains, it was not as though they were in an isolated area. We don't know exactly what he was doing with them. Time will tell. They were in various states. Understand, some of these are 200 years old. Some of them obviously much newer. There's one that had a pacemaker still attached to the bottom. So clearly that's not 200 years old. We are trying to figure out exactly what went on in that home. It is still unclear, and given the enormity of what we are looking at and the sheer kind of utter lack of reasonable explanation, it's difficult to say right now at this juncture exactly what took place. We're trying to figure it out.
Did he have like videos that you guys were able to confiscate? Was he setting them up? What was he doing?
At this point, it's somewhat unclear. There were so many that they were in various states. Some of them were hanging, as it were. Some of them were pieced together. Some were just skulls.
That is disgusting.
We don't know exactly what we've got, what condition they are in. We're still figuring out, does this go with that, etc. So there was no signature thing that was taking place with each of these skeletons. It was a collection. He was doing various things with all of them. At this juncture, that appears as much organizational as anything else. It's not clear there was an MO.
Okay, and one last thing. Was anybody else in that house? Was it just him at the house, or were there other people there who knew what was going on in his collection?
Mr. Gerlock had a girlfriend, it turns out, who was at least around the home.
So she could have been aware. Have you talked to her?
We at this point, where Mr. Gerlock is the one that is charged. I'm not going to say anything further in the investigation. Madeline, yeah, hi.
Hi, Madeline Wright, CBS Philadelphia.
Thank you.
A few questions. Was Mr. Gerlock stealing jewelry as well, or the remains, and was he selling any of it?
Wow.
So we have now recovered jewelry. It's unclear, again, what that is connected to. We believe at least some of that was recovered with the remains. Whether that was his primary motive or not, we can't speak to at this point. We are working to figure out whether or not anything was sold. There are indications, but at this point, that's a little bit unclear.
There had been reports earlier this year, I believe, of other like mausoleum doors missing, things like that at various cemeteries in the area. Does it look like this is connected to that, or is that something else entirely?
It's preliminary, Alex. At this point, we don't have any indication they're necessarily connected. Certainly, we're going to run it down.
Do we know what equipment Mr. Gerlock was using to break into the graves?
There was, when he was arrested, he was recovered with a crowbar and some other pretty rudimentary items. It is not as though this was, there's no forklifts involved in this at this juncture that we can identify. It seems everything was handheld.
How did the police become aware of this?
I don't want to get too deep into the investigation.
Sorry, you guys. I'm just making a thumbnail for this video.
Madeline, but actually just kind of good old-fashioned police work. They identified a suspect.
Good old-fashioned police work.
Realized he started hitting on license plate readers around the time these break-ins occurred and went from there. So it, again, started on a hunch and someone following some intuition where they very easily could have dismissed it. Instead, they went the extra mile did some legwork and found out that, in fact, their hunch had been corroborated by a number of factors. Obviously, it went from there, but that was the initial lead.
Was there any digging involved, or did he just break into mausoleums?
There was some. I don't want to comment and get out ahead. Some of it was underground, some of it was above ground. So there was some breaking in, and I don't know exactly, John, as I stand here, whether or not he had to physically dig or go in. But there was definitely some underground and some above ground.
Can you describe the actual arrest at all? Do you know the particulars of how that went down?
Alex, as I stand here today, Detective Carr be in a better position to answer that. It was relatively uneventful. It wasn't as though there was a struggle or anything of that nature.
Do you think more arrests could be coming in this case?
At this point, I don't foresee anything, Madeline. I don't have any reason to believe. Certainly more charges are possible. I don't know if there's going to be any more arrests. Is it possible with something of this scope? Certainly. It defies any logic, so I don't want to rule anything out. At the same time, we don't have any reason to believe he was working with anyone as he was doing this at this time.
That's crazy.
Real quick, the Yaden chief, you've been in the business a long time. You ever seen anything along these lines ever?
No. After 30 years now, I can say this is probably the most horrific thing that I've seen. And again, to the families, as the district attorney pointed out, we all have loved ones that passed. Like, rest in peace is rest in peace. And this is definitely something that tears at your heartstring, especially when you see, as he pointed out, an infant having children and grandchildren. Yeah, it was definitely an event. And again, thanks to the support of the district attorney's office and the unwavering support of the mayor and and the detectives and the officers we have in Yaden, we're truly blessed to have a great team.
Understanding it's early days, but have you been able to identify any families of these remains and spoken to them at all yet?
There are the 26 specific instances, Alex, in which we are aware of where a grave was broken into. We have not been able to necessarily link those up, but we do know those are instances of specific break-ins. Beyond that, not at this point.
Was it the cemetery staff who noticed that there was some damage and then contacted the mayor and then the mayor contacted police?
Yeah, the Friends of Mount Moriah, who have board members from both Philadelphia and Yaden, noticed that some grave sites were desecrated and notified the Philadelphia Police Department, Yaden Police Department through me. I'm actually on the board, and I notified our chief, and that really started the resolution of this to date.
And the 100 remains that were found, are they all from the cemetery in Yaden, or they could be from other cemeteries?
No, we believe, Madeline, they are from other cemeteries as well. We can't say for absolute certain at this point, but it seems almost certain that they are beyond Mount Moriah.
Any other reports about other cemeteries?
Of course, there are other reports out there. We have not been able to corroborate, does this match up with what we're finding? And frankly, again, like I said, I don't know that we ever will. There are other reports. We're looking into it.
How common is this?
Not very. Thank God. No, I, as the chief alluded to, I can think of other instances in which we've heard of someone literally grave robbing, right? Going down there and stealing jewelry or stealing something of that nature. We've all heard of desecration of corpse cases where someone's...
Wait, you guys are able to hear this, right? I see Kat's ear just got in and she says she can't hear it. Type 1 in the chat if you guys can hear the actual chat. Or the video, not the chat.
Something to a dead body. I've never heard of any situation, I've been, this is 16, almost 17 years, where someone's stealing and collecting the bones like this. This is different.
One of these incidents, well, at least, the cell phone pinging was on Halloween. Do you have any reason to believe there's some sort of connection there? Was he using them as like Halloween decoration?
There was no evidence, John, of, as I said, anything concerted. That there just isn't anything going on in that basement that leads you to believe, okay, I don't rationalize it, I don't get it, but I see what is happening here. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of rhyme or reason.
Is he part of a satanic cult of some sort, or
Not to anyone's knowledge at this point, and certainly he hasn't given any indication of such.
There's a Facebook page of somebody with the same name, Jonathan Gerlock, and there's a picture of him holding a skull.
Yes, there is.
And part of a group that says Human Bones and Skull Selling Group. Is that part of the investigation?
It is.
And that Facebook page belongs to the suspect?
Where it's part of the investigation, we are working to confirm all that, Madeline, and what that might have led to, the veracity of any of that. It doesn't strike me as a coincidence, but we need to figure out if anything's actually happening with that, or if this guy was just taking skeletons and talking a big game on Facebook.
You talking to local medical schools to see if they maybe bought any of these bones in the past year or so?
I don't know, Alex, the outreach that's happened just yet.
If someone was buying bones from that person, is that illegal?
I have to be honest with you, Madeline. I'd have to look into it. I don't know that it would be unless they had reason to know what this was. The bone trafficking laws are new to me. Any other? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I'm on mute. There you go. I don't even know what to say. That 574 counts that he was charged with, over 100 bodies. Some of these bodies they said were over 200 years old. That guy's really got to be sick in the head. The guy's probably made a lot of money doing this stuff too, trading. They said that he recently went to Chicago to do, I don't know if it was a sale or whatnot. I don't know who, I forget who it was that mentioned in the chat. Was it Fizzgig? Somebody mentioned in the chat too that the workers there are volunteers, so that place wasn't monitored often or as heavily as it should have been. So he was out there working out in the open, and that sucks, right? And that the cemetery only has volunteers to kind of monitor and make sure that these remains are kept safe. They said that he has his hearing on January 20th, so I'm curious to see, what's going to happen with that. No, definitely not going to plead insanity, right? He didn't drink enough monsters for that, and he didn't smoke enough menthol cigarettes for that. So I'm curious if there's anything else that kind of comes up from this, we'll definitely stream it. That's going to be it for tonight, though. I do appreciate all of you guys that came out to hang out super, super late. We're probably going to be back tomorrow to do another one. So if there's any cases you guys want me to kind of discuss, talk about, I know there's a ton that I haven't even talked about. Let me know in the comments or in the chat. So then that way I can probably do some tomorrow. Oh, Obsidian. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. You got gifted a membership? That probably happened on one of our lives the other night. But whoever it was, thank you for gifting memberships. Obsidian. Foxy said Obsidian. I'm not going to lie, Incognito, that's one case that I haven't followed at all. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm very new to this scene on YouTube. But I am slowly learning and doing my own research on a ton of these cases. And not gonna lie, I've been focusing a lot on the David and Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. And I'm digging pretty deep into this case. So, if you guys haven't watched some of the lives, or if you're new to the channel, check out some of the lives that we've done. Probably gonna do a little recap on Asia's return to social media. How many of you guys in the chat watched that? Because that was a whole ass show. I know Katsier in the chat was asking in the comments if I was able to get that video. I haven't been able to, but it was really garbage, right? She had no reason being back on the internet really too soon. I don't know. We were definitely in her chat, though. I can tell you that I was on her Twitch and got banned because the crew showed up. You know, Inner Circle and the Shark Gang were there. The Shark fam showed up, and we all got banned. But we did find some interesting stuff out yesterday, right? She is no longer friends, or maybe she never was, right? But she came out on Twitch and she called Sakura a bitch and said that she has, or she doesn't deserve to have a platform. So I'm very curious to see where this goes, or even if Sakura responded to that. Anybody know if Sakura responded? I don't know if she's responded or not, but we'll probably talk about it tomorrow. One of our good friends over here on the channel, Mark the Shark, actually streamed the entire return that Asia did. I guess she did this album review for ASAP Rocky. And Jazzy said, I think that's weird because isn't Sakura the only one that has addressed it? I don't know. Has she addressed it? Yeah, I don't know. Misty sharing God's blessings. Welcome. That was so interesting. She's going to break this case. She's out to do more than any of the others. Obsidian, thank you so much. So Kat's here said, I don't know if she's responded. I'm sure someone will tell Mark if she does. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what. So what I do know is that she did a stream yesterday. She was reviewing ASAP Rocky's new album. She had maximum probably about 37 viewers for the whole 2.5 hours that she was live. She banned probably northward of about 20 people, maybe 30. I was one of them. And yeah, she went and exposed her relationship with Sakura. So we'll talk about it tomorrow, though. If there is anything, so any of you guys that do have that are a member, if you guys go to the community wall, I did post a link to our Discord, and you know, in the Discord is where we kind of deep dive into some of these other cases, or we have a deeper or further talk, and sometimes we'll even hop on a voice chat and talk about things that, you know, probably aren't suitable for YouTube, right? So if you guys are on Discord, you guys are a member, consider joining. The link is over there on the community for members only. Oh yeah, and we got some new emojis, you guys. I don't know if you guys have seen them yet, but we do got some new ones. We got a Justice for Celeste Rivas heart. She's definitely a trash human being. We got a few. Let me see. I'm trying to see. I can't access all of them because this damn. Let me see. Maybe I can access them here. Yeah, well, we have 2 new ones for Celeste. So y'all can feel free to use them in the chat. There you go. All right, you guys, that's going to be it. Thank you guys for all hanging out. I am going to call it a night, and we'll hang out tomorrow. All right, you guys, take care. I'll see you guys, and I am out of here. Peace.